Yo, what is going on, YouTube? Hope you guys are doing fantastic today. And today, we're taking a little trip down memory lane. We're going to be talking about Season 1 God releases from Kumbhakarna all the way to Hou Yi. And we're just going to be kind of ranking them based on how much they actually meant to the game. Have they been picked in most metas, all metas, none of the metas? Are their kits fun? And we're just going to do a little tier list on them and just look back and just see how these releases were. We're going to do this for every single season of Gods, starting with Season 1 all the way up to Season 8, and then after the season, Season 9. But before that, I want to talk about gamer subs. This is my favorite flavor, Guacamole Gamer Fart 9000. I know the flavor doesn't sound great, but it tastes very good. And Dragon Fruit Punch, both my two favorite flavors. Gamer Subs is an energy drink, kind of like your sports drinks like Gatorade, but it's for gaming, to give you a little bit more energy to win your ranked games, your casuals, whatever. Check it out. Use code Inbound. Put the link below. So Season 1 started with like 30, 40 something gods, and the first release that I could find, there was no proof that this is actually the first god released, because I looked for like an hour trying to find out which god was the first Season 1 release god. There was a couple Reddit posts that said Kumbha was the first. So Kumbha is who we're starting with. Kumbhakarna has never really been the guardian to define all guardians. He's been an average character some metas, horrendous some metas, and then pretty good in some metas like Season 3, Season 4, Season 5's Invade meta. Even in Season 1 when Kumbha was released, he wasn't played at Worlds from what I saw. Keep in mind, I didn't start playing until Season 2, so Smite Season 1, I kind of have to go after just information that I can find on YouTube or Twitter, Reddit, whatever it is. And as far as I know, Kumbha was not a big pick in Season 1. He was pretty average. He wasn't really played that much. And even up until now, he's never really been a character that has defined the meta. Like, you play this character or you lose. A lot of other characters at one point have been the character, and if you're not playing them, you're kind of trolling. I think Kumbha's kit is fun. It's a bit older, so it's not as strong, but it's still fun to play. It's really fun if you like get into somebody's game that you know and you're like camping around them and CCing them for 15 seconds. It's fun to do, but I'm going to put Kumbha in bad character just because he hasn't seen the success of other characters. Up until this season, I don't think Kumbha's been the support to win a LAN, and Aurora was the one that won it last LAN. And up until then, Kumbha, we have never seen Kumbha do something like that. So we're going to put Kumbha in bad character. And keep in mind with this tier list, game defining means this character has almost always been one of the top tiers. The emoji is going to be in game defining just because of her kit. She's very fun too. Honestly, she's very fun. That is like a game defining character. Great characters, just they've been very good. They're very fun, very enjoyable to watch. Average, just average a lot of stuff, and then bad, they're going to be bad with all that stuff. And this is just by comparison. I by no means think Kumbha's a bad character. I think his passive could use a little bit of love. Maybe his one-hitters or his ult, but he is a bad character by comparison to all these other ones. Skipping from a bad character to one of the best Season 1 characters is Osiris. Osiris was the solo laner of Season 1. He'd build Runeforge, which back then changed your, was it physical power? Or physical protections over to power, kind of like Vamana passive. And Osiris would just build that, and then he'd build into a chin size, and he could just 1v5, and it was a sight to see. I love going back and watching the games and just seeing Osiris frag. And I'm pretty sure Season 1, late into the playoffs, auto attack canceling became a thing. Or maybe it was Season 2, I can't remember. But he was played for a while as an OP character, and then people found out how to auto attack cancel with him, and it became even better. Osiris is just kind of the soul laner. When you think of soul laners, you think of like Osiris, Bellonas, Wukongs, but Osiris is always towards the top because he's always going to be really good in most metas. He's very good with Death Tolls. Currently, I think the only metas he wasn't great was like a Warrior's Blessing metas in like Season 6, Season 7. To me, Osiris is one of the most fun characters to play. In solo lane, just being able to go out there, start beating on an enemy solo laner and diving late game and feel like you're taking no damage. Osiris was a lot of fun, and I think he's also really fun to watch. So Osiris, to me, is a great character. Janus on release, if I remember correctly, was a clunky, horrible mess. You had to stand still with his ult. So you know how currently, if you start ulting, you can like move around before your ult goes off? He used to stand still. There was other things with him that were really bad too, but that is the one that sticks out of my mind as this character came out a bit too early out of the oven. Maybe if they kept him in there a bit longer, kept him cooking a little bit longer, maybe booped up the degrees by a couple, he could have came out a little bit more fresh, but he was a little bit buggy, weird, clunky. Now, currently, season 2, season 3, season 4, Janus was very, very good or very, very bad. He doesn't have these average metas where you can play him. It's either Janus is one of the most busted characters in the game, or Janus is very, very, very bad. You've seen a lot of buffs to Janus. They had a recent buff in like season 6 where they tried to make Janus better for the casual player and worse at the SPL level because he was running SPL games. I think he's a pretty average character. Works out perfectly that we have kind of one in every single one of these to start off, because Janus has just had too many weak metas to put him any higher. Janus to play, he's probably one of the most fun mages to play, and he's one of the most fun mages to watch play. So I could see an argument to see him bumped up to great character. But I'm going to put him in average for now just because he's had so many metas where he's just been so bad. Same way Osiris is kind of like the solo laner you think of. A lot of the times Rama is the first hunter that comes to mind. It's like Rama, maybe Apollo. He's just this auto attack character. You farm him up, get him to late game. He could 1v5. In competitive Smite, when you're watching Rama's play and they go into the air and you're seeing them shoot down from the skies, that's one of the most hype moments. I remember like watching Ally do that, like Barracuda, ML, like watching those players make these sick plays and then hit all 3 of their snipes. It was so hyped to watch. While his kit is very basic, it's still fun to play, and I still get a lot of enjoyment out of it just because of the ult a lot of it. I think he's almost always been a super strong character. Even in metas that aren't great for him, he can still be played in. The only time I can remember where he actually was bad in a meta was a Transcendence meta, where he just can't really build trans, and other characters are better early than him, so there was no reason to really play him. But I think Rama is still a very great character, and I have no reason to not put him into great because he's nearly always been one of the best ADCs. The Smite World Championships was defined by Serqet and another character who we'll get to later. Serqet ran games. You gave up Serqet to trade her for like Thor, who was another very good character back then, but Serqet was kind of like we don't want to play against this character unless we get something big against it, like that Thor into an Osiris. Serqet defined season 1 games. Through her tenure, though, she's kind of been like Janus, where she's been very, very, very up and down. There's metas where she's terrible, metas where she's OP, metas where she's played in support. And I think that viability in other roles makes her kind of cooler. It makes it more interesting to see Serqet picked, because it could be, is this Serqet support, Serqet jungle? Where are we going to see the Serqet played? I think Alec Finoke also played her in solo lane, which is cool to see. I love watching characters be played in kind of off roles to see if they can work out. In my opinion, she's one of the most fun gods in the game also, and I think she's one of the most fun to see. Very, very little stuff in the game comes up against Serqet's poison spreading and doing 300 damage to 5 different characters, reducing their anti-heal. I don't know. This character is super fun to watch, super cool. I'm putting her in great character. I can see an argument for average, but to me, Serqet is a great character and a great addition to the game. Next up is Cabrakin. Cabrakin was either extremely buggy or clunky on release. I can't remember which one it was, but he was not played at all, and kind of the same level as Kumba, where he's just never really been that guy. He's never been that guy. You know, the guy from Spy Kids 3? He's never been the guy. He's never been him. He's had some metas where he's been decent, but he's never been a meta-defining character. He's been average. He's been good. He's actually been picked more as a jungler probably than a support in SPL in his career, which should tell you a little bit about how weak he's been in support. He's played a lot in jungle by like season 3 Elevate, like Cherio. Lazarus played him a few times. Season 8, Season 9. Overall, he's just never really been, like I said, that guy. I think he's fun to play. He's fun to watch play because he's so like boom or bust. He's not a go in, back out, go in, back out. He's a go in, stay in a little longer, stay in a little bit more, and then hopefully we win the fight. And I think that is interesting to watch in more SPL play because it's more just go in instead of more smart play, kind of. I would probably have to put him in bad character, but I think he is a very good character of the game, and I enjoy him. But just by comparison, he is probably one of the worst characters by what he's meant to Smite. So, bad character. Sylvanas. If this is Sylvanas in Season 1 and 2, he is game defining. He is the support for probably 2 seasons. Season 3 came around. He kind of fell off a little bit. Season 4, he fell off more. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, he's kind of been an average character to maybe good. The problem with Sylvanas is way back when Smite started, tankiness and protections that you got from your abilities made you so tanky that you would never get picked. Now, It's very easy to get picked if you position even slightly poorly. And I think that hurts Sylvanas a little bit more. I do think he's in a pretty good spot now all the way up until season 9. In my opinion, he's the most fun support. Hitting a pull is top 5 feeling up there with like Serqet, poison spreading. And I think he's very fun to watch. Almost the opposite of Cab, where Cab's just kind of going in blindly and just like hoping to win the fight. It's like he's like the big strong guy that doesn't really have a brain, but like he's gonna win a lot of fights just because he's so big and strong. Sylvanas is like the more
smarter, intelligent, like maybe we don't take this fight, maybe I pull and then we look for a pick and we look for an active.
Like that's Sylvanas is the intelligent. He's the Albert Einstein of the supports, and I think he's super fun to watch. He's super fun to play, and I love watching metas that are defined by Sylvanas. But because of how weak he's been recently, I don't think I can put him in great character. We're gonna stick him in average character and call it a day. But in our heart, we know we love Sylvanas because this is a support channel after all. So shout outs to the boy Sylvanas. Also crazy, season 1 had 3 Guardian releases. This is probably the most supports that have been released in a year ever. It started in season 1. Before we talk about Nox, she got a big rework that I think we have to look at. But this is where
Nox
her difference
creates a barrier of night around herself that mitigates damage from the next hostile ability.
So this was basically an Aegis for one ability. It was, I think, 90% mitigation on the next ability that hits you, which is almost an Aegis. But you could do that against a Scylla ult, and the Scylla ult would hit you for 100 instead of 1,000, and I loved that ability.
Nox launches a raven that spreads.
So this is kind of like her old, or her current one, except instead of rooting, crippling, and doing damage, it would go through enemies and silence, and it would spread night along its path. This is kind of like her current 2.
Darkness. Nox
I think it has the same
targets
name.
the ground and attempts to consume all darkness in the area. Enemies who are standing in the target area take damage.
So this is just an area ability that does damage. The cool thing about this ability, it is one of the few abilities in Smite history that is a low cooldown, low damage harass ability. Think of it like Hebo 1, except I know I just said Hebo 1 is low damage, but it's not. It's freaking an ultimate, so I can't really compare it to that. But think of a Hebo's 1 cooldown. It's very low, even though it is high damage. Nox's 2 was on like a 3-second cooldown, and you would just harass, toss it out, and you would just poke them down. You would run out of mana really quickly with this character because of just how many times you would use her too. But I think that was cool, where it was very unique for a mage to have an ability like this. You look at Scylla, who is mediocre cooldowns with very high damaging abilities. Nox was kind of the opposite.
If the target is shrouded in darkness, then they take double amount of damage.
Yeah, Shroud in Darkness, double
Nox's
damage.
ultimate is called Night Terror. Nox attempts to link her shadow with the enemy player.
So this one's not even close to her current ult. This is where like kind of a lot of her kit differs. So she would link herself to a target. If the target left that area, then it would break the link, compared to her current ult where she just slams it down a lane, and if it hits the enemies, it does damage and reduces their damage dealt.
While linked with Nox, enemies take damage every time they use an ability. Nox
And that was cool too. Every time they use an ability, it's kind of like Morgan, or I should say MLF, because I don't want to say Morgan because then you might think I'm saying the Mill or the Morgan. But MLF, where if you use your 3 and you hit the enemy, every time they use an ability, they take damage. And that originally was in Nox's kit, and then she got reworked to what we know today as the Arena Master. In Season 1, she wasn't meta-defining, but she was very good. When I was watching back the broadcast one of the first times, she was considered like this dark tech where nobody really knew how to play her. And I think it was Pre-Prime kind of had this card under the table of he plays Nox, and I think MLC Stealth did too. And it was this story that kind of developed through it where nobody played Nox is what everybody thought. And by everybody, I mean kind of like the casters, announcers. And then slowly you started to hear rumblings about the Nox, and she's very good, and she's OP, and she's like this dark technology that'll win you the set. And then she ended up being played. She was winning a good amount of her games. I don't remember why she got reworked. She was reworked before I played. Just as a quick thing before we even go any farther, if I could bring back any kit just to play it one time, it would 100% be Nox's, just because I'd want to see how like her kit felt and how she played, because I felt like her old kit was super unique and her current kit is just kind of combo oriented, like a Scylla kind of. I just think her old kit was super unique and I'd love to play it. Nox, through her entire career, she's kind of been, I just said career like she's my player character, her entire lifetime she's been a pretty underwhelming character. She's never really been a mid-defining mage. She's kind of got her spot as a support now. She's seen a few metas playing solo, but she's never been like that character. She is very fun in Conquest to me. I love playing her mid lane. I know people don't like watching her. They don't like playing her really. They don't like playing against her. I do think she is a good character to add to the game. In comparison, she is a bad character. Season 1, Kuang. Kuang was the original name for Kukulkan. So if you see like season 1 stuff and it's talking about like Whirlwind and stuff like that, it's talking about Kukulkan, which is something I found out like right away. I didn't know it was a thing until like season 3, but that's still 6 years ago. So Kuang was reworked into his name was reworked into Kukulkan, and then Kuang was added into the game as this dragon character. Kuang is kind of like Janus, where he's either OP in a meta, or he's literally useless, never played. In season 1, when he was played, he was banned in nearly every game. I think he was picked in 2 Worlds games in season 1 in like the top 8 teams, and he won both of them dominantly. Like actually dominantly, he destroyed. And that's why you ban Kuang, because he is that good. In season 1, he used to build rings. In season 2, a poly full damage build came about. In season like 4, they removed how poly worked with his 3. It no longer procced it. And now back in season 7, 8, and 9, he's back to building rings. Kuang is fun to play. I think he's really fun to watch. He's like this ticking time bomb, and his character and his character model and just how he looks in team fights is super cool. So I'm going to put him probably a little bit higher just because of that. I know people love watching Kuang, and maybe he's not loved to be played, but he's a cool character by his design. And I think that is kind of what makes him into that next tier. And that's why I'm putting him in average character. He's never really been a great character besides like season 1 and then a couple times in these last 5 seasons. So I can't put him any higher, but to me, he's a super cool character. Awilix is probably everybody's least favorite rank juggle to play against in their lifetime. Back in like season 3, 4, 5, Awilix used to just walk around level 1, 2, 3 and just one-shot you. And it was just terrible to play against. And then they reworked her, and now she's kind of just in a bad spot. She has very few positives. In season 1, she was very, very rarely played. I think she was released right after Worlds, so I can't really talk about her being played at Worlds. I can't think of a single meta where where Awilix is actually a meta-defining character. And I don't think she's particularly cool to watch. I think it's cool seeing like her pull someone over the wall and then one-shotting them. I haven't like seen it enough while I watched Pro League to be like, this character is cool to watch. So Hou Yi on his release was terrible. He is notably one of the worst releases in Smite history in terms of balance. His 1 is the exact same, but you used to have to like charge it up and then you could shoot it. So it wasn't something you could just like insta pop to try to stun somebody. If you're like chasing them down, you had to like sit there and then charge it and then release it. And then your 3, you jump into the air instead of just like jumping and then picking where you want to choose. You would like jump and then like move forward a little bit and then fall down. It was just weird. And then with his ult, he used to have to stand still to shoot down the suns because he was just a bad shooter back then. So he couldn't do it like moving. But he was very, very bad on release. He's gotten a few buffs through the years, and he's in a good spot now, obviously. But I don't think he is kind of that character for the Hunters. He's not a Rama level. He is pretty hype. He's cool to watch. It's fun seeing him 1v1. But he's never just been like one of the best Hunters in the game. I think I'm going to put him in average just because he has seen some good metas that went perfectly with him. But I think we got to stick him in average character. I don't think he's particularly cool to watch, but he's fine. He's never really been a great character, or like a top 5, but he's pretty cool. There it is, a little look back at Season 1 Smite God releases. Next up, Season 2. If you guys liked the video, make sure you guys give it a thumbs up. Maybe comment something so it gets tossed into the algorithm, because YouTube is fickle like that. Maybe comment your favorite dessert if you liked the video and you watched it all the way through, and I'll like it. If you say cheesecake, I'll heart it, because cheesecake is my favorite too. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Check out Gamer Subs. See you.